You can see that I've gone through this game a couple of times, so we'll be playing through it again, and I can talk about we can talk about the different sections and everything. So let's go ahead and get started. So it's a walking simulator, right? So like Gone Home, the gameplay is really just kind of walking around and interacting with your environment. There's not much action in the game, but it's really lovely. But I don't want to spoil anything just yet, so we'll get to it. It is literally a game as text, yeah, and it's 100% the reason why I choose to teach with this game. Right now I'm teaching remotely, so I don't know, I can't do it yet, but hopefully we get back in the building by the end of the year, because I could teach with it like this over Twitch, but I like that in-person interaction with my students. So we are on a boat. Some Chinese food. Edith Finch.
A lot of this isn't going to make sense to you, and I'm sorry about that. I'm just going to start at the beginning.
How's the volume? Can everyone hear fine? Alright, so what's unique about this game is that the text will actually interact with the environment itself in this game. It's like the subtitles are built into it.
I lived here until I was 11, but I wasn't allowed inside half the rooms.
And during the first lesson, so you can see there's a house in the distance, that's where we're going. But for the first lesson in class, we would actually not go in the home. We just do this opening section where we walk up to it and go over like the mood and tone of the game. And it's a good way to like pass the controller around and get students familiarized with the controls.
Inside the mailbox were bills from 7 years ago, marked urgent, open immediately.
Right, and kind of setting the stage.
It's my brother Lewis's funeral.
Okay, so we get some development there. My brother Lewis's funeral, so you know that her brother has passed away. You see how the subtitles kind of just get knocked away.
In her will, my mother left me a key, but
you can see even talk about her clothing, the motif of things being randomly put together, all jumbled. You know, I didn't even think of that, but yeah, totally.
Maybe she thought I'd know. Or she thought that the mystery would be enough to bring me back.
So here you can actually walk down or to the right. I usually stick to the road. It's a little more exciting. Although you could circle back.
No one had driven this way in a long time, but I saw a few hoof prints.
There's a deer over there. That's why I like to take the road, because if you go down the other path, you don't get to see the deer.
The truth is, even after I inherited the house, I never thought I'd come back to it.
Right, so she inherited it, so you know someone passed away.
That only the house knew the answers to. The house was exactly like I remembered it, the way I'd been dreaming about it.
Right, so the house, it's almost like fairy tale-ish. It's a very different take on a fairy tale, right? It's built up this, in a ridiculous manner, up this tree. Old basketball hoop. So usually here, I'll let students kind of walk around on their own, but I do try to guide them a little bit to the different spots. So like, I want them to come down here by the pond.
I asked Edie once about the dragon in the pond. She said it had killed her husband.
Right, because the more you explore, the more dialogue like that gets triggered.
I was 6. It seemed like an odd joke to me, even then.
And you'll notice pretty quickly that death is a big theme in this game. If we look here, we got a newspaper missing. If you have information about Milton Finch, right? Another one. Yep, and another one.
As a child, the house made me uncomfortable in a way I couldn't put into words.
It would totally make me uncomfortable. Anyone who's afraid of heights, look at that thing.
Now, as a 17-year-old, I knew exactly what those words were.
Right. Okay, so now when we talk about like characterization and learning about the personalities and just the identities of people, we now know Edith is 17 years old, right? And she's now inherited this home from some family. So, and she's young, so she's kind of left alone at a young age. We get another missing persons report. Another one. Try that
I hoped
key.
the key might unlock the front door. It didn't.
And and a lot of my students have never played games before, so I will kind of help push them in the right direction to get all these little things to trigger
Looking in,
these
I
pieces
felt
of
like
dialogue.
the house itself had been waiting for me.
It's very cluttered in there. Alright. What do I got? Gary's potting mix. So we go in here, but for the first day of playing the game, I actually don't let my students go in here. I kind of want them to walk around, take in the atmosphere more, look at things they notice. Right.
The house felt like it had always been here. Even the swing set was older than my mother.
Because everything is done intentionally, so that swing set will be important later on. Right in here, we'd be talking about the mood and tone of the game. Like, how does the game make you feel at this point? What's it trying to convey? Right, and that includes the sound design, the wind chimes, and everything. Alright, let's go on in.
Crawling through the doggy door used to be a lot easier when I was 11.
So I love this garage for a number of reasons, but my favorite thing is this right here. This tennis ball. So do you all know what the tennis ball is actually for? Why a tennis ball would be hanging from the ceiling? Because my students had no idea, and this must be a more cultural, like, suburban thing to make sure you don't back in too far. Yeah, exactly, right? So I remember specifically my grandparents have this currently still in their garage, where they have a tennis ball hanging from the garage to make sure, and when the tennis ball touches the car, and they stop, because they know that they've gone in far enough. But none of my students, we live in I teach in the Bronx in New York City, right? So none of them have garages like this, so they've never seen anything like that. Hey, Spooky, how's it going? Right, so culturally to them, this is very distant, but like to me, I feel right at home in a cluttered garage like this with a bunch of crap. And a workbench especially.
The power had been turned off the night we left.
Right, so setting the stage more the night we left, right? So Edith was with someone originally when she left, but now she's coming back alone.
For the first time in years, I felt like I was home.
Also, there's a calendar here to set the stage for, like, context. 2010. Although, who knows when the last time this calendar was flipped. Oh, I've never seen this before. So we got Edie, Dawn, Lewis, Milton, Edith. And you are Edith. I never noticed that the coat hangers had the names of characters on it before. We are about 5 minutes in, Spooky. So we literally just entered the house. And all you missed was that Edith inherited a house from someone. She's 17 years old. She never really knew that she never really thought she would come back, but now she wants answers about her
But
family.
instead of a family, there were just memories of one.
Right? So clearly there's a lot of crap around. Right? So the way it works is that there's like little dialogue triggers for different things.
Like how after Lewis started working at the cannery, we all got sick of eating salmon. Except our cat, Molly.
You could totally use this in conjunction with other house story with any other, and that's why I use it with Gone Home, because it's the same idea of like walking through a house.
Or how only one restaurant would deliver to our house, so we had Chinese a lot.
I've always wanted to play this one. You're in for a ride, Spooky, because this game is so weird and so wonderful. Some noises.
The table was still a wreck from the night we left. It was like a bomb had gone off, killing everyone but sparing the furniture.
So this hasn't changed since the night they left, and Edith had said that it's been years since she's been here. Edie?
My mom was the only one of us who could imagine Great-Grandma Edie living in a nursing home.
Right, so now we're learning about different family members. Keep that in mind, because that's super important for this game.
Nothing in the house looked abnormal. There was just too much of it. Like a smile with too many teeth.
A smile with too many teeth.
Even the fireplace had a story. Edie told me the bricks came from the original house, after it sank.
So that piece of dialogue threw my students through a loop, because and remember, all my students are English language learners, so they're still grappling with language. But when they heard that the house sank, they were like, wait a minute. What do you mean it sank? Because some of them picked up on that, like, that it sank obviously is a term relevant to water, so it was very confusing. Hey, thank you for the follow, Alyssa. We got some finches, because at least I'm assuming those are finches since the game is called Edith Finch. I actually have a pin for this game. It's on one of my backpacks.
Mom always told me to stay out of the basement, so I wasn't too surprised when the key didn't fit.
Barbara.
Great-Grandpa Sven built a music box for Barbara, along with the rest of the house.
So Sven built the house. Here we're learning a little bit about Barbara, right? So the entire game is about learning about your family and all the different members of your family.
A lot of things got left behind in the whirlwind of that last night.
And now this, look at this. Right, so the door is sealed shut completely.
Edie told me once that every Finch who ever lived is buried somewhere in the library.
That's ominous. Alright, we got one of those little elevator chairs. Lots of books. I wonder if all of these are real titles.
After Milton disappeared, Mom sealed up all the bedrooms. Then Edie retaliated and drilled peepholes.
So this is where my students, and I told my students going in that this was going to be a weird game, right? So all the bedrooms are sealed, but you can peek into all of them.
Whenever people ask me about my family, the first thing they always want to know about is Barbara.
My friend Bigfoot Introducing Barbara Finch. Right, so Barbara was an actress.
Mom must have locked the third floor stairs on the night we left. Edie's father, Odin, built the original house.
So there was an original house, right? This is not the original house. This is Barbara's room. Okay, and something about the game. So with each,
Barbara was
do
a
this
child
first.
star for 2 years, until America grew out of it.
Right, so each bedroom is sealed, but you can peek in and it's like a little museum of the person who lived there. Right, so Barbara, 1944 to 1960. Right, so it provides the lifespan, right? Just kind of like any grave of how long they lived. So Barbara was only 16 when she died. And we're going to see a common thread about that in the game. Alright, so we got a couple of bedrooms here. Calvin, 1950 to 1961. So he's only 11. Let's look at here.
My Grandpa Sam spent 7 years sharing a room with his dead brother, Calvin.
Here we have Gregory, 1976 to 1977. So Gregory was only 1 when he died.
As a kid, I just assumed every house had peepholes and sealed rooms you weren't allowed inside of.
That would be weird if everyone had a house like this. Oh, look at that. The weird. And here we got Sven and Edie. So Sven, 1950 to 1964, so he was a little bit older. And Edie, 1917 to 2010, over 90 years old, so way older.
The last time I was in Edith Sr.'s room, I was 10 and she was painting my portrait.
Right, and it was in this section of the game that I had my students start creating a table of the different family members, and started like jotting down notes of what we know, what we learn about each of them. I think, we even look at the start menu where you can see there's a family tree with all these different family members, and then with you, Edith, at the very top, who you can see was born in 1999. Here we have Molly, 1937 to 1947. So she was only 10 years old when she died.
Molly always seemed like a girl I could imagine being friends with, if she hadn't died in 1947.
That's an interesting photo.
I spent a lot of time playing in Great Uncle Walter's room.
Got some scuff marks on the floor.
I think my mom sometimes regretted not sealing it up.
So it's right about here that my students started calling me crazy for choosing this game.
Lewis told me there were secret passages, but I never believed him.
But it's also where they got way more interested in the story of the game.
Turns out, my mom was really good at keeping secrets. Now it was time to find out what my mom had been afraid of.
They got really hyped up about this little secret passageway.
From the paintings on the wall, it was clear my brother Milton had been here before me.
So Milton...
Reading this, maybe it sounds like I had a plan.
Right, so Milton, right, remember her, she said that he was the one who went missing. He's the one on those newspapers that said missing.
But I had no idea what was behind that door. Just like I had no idea where all this was gonna lead. I grew up looking at Molly's room through the peephole. Molly's gerbil had a tiny bedroom with its own even tinier gerbil cage.
we'll get to that in a second. Can we go look in here? No, this could be good in a psychology class. It could totally work in a psychology class also. So now the main mechanic of this game is that you're walking. It's a walking simulator. So you're walking around and rummaging through things and just discovering
Being inside for
the story.
First time, I felt like I'd stepped behind a painting.
But now we're gonna get to the real mechanic of the game. So
I thought
as we go
had spent a lot of time here
into each,
before my mom sealed the doors.
Yeah, as we go into each of these family members' bedrooms, they all have a journal, and we read each of their journal entries to figure out how they died, right? So Molly died in 1947, so now we're gonna learn about how Molly died or how Molly passed away, and it's really cool because I'll just show you. We're gonna get transported away.
December 13th, 1947. Dear Diary, I'll be gone soon, but I wanted to tell somebody about what's gonna happen. It started when Mom sent me to bed without dinner. I woke up and I was starving, so I looked around for something to eat.
So I'm now little Molly, and I'm hungry.
My Halloween candy was all gone. Mom, can I come out now?
Sweetheart, it's late. Go
Yeah,
to
this is
sleep.
definitely a sad game.
The gerbil food was dry, but I didn't mind it.
I don't think gerbil food is good. Where's the gerbil, though? Some gerbil poop.
I thought about eating Christopher, but I held back.
Don't eat the goldfish. Ooh, what do we have here?
I kept eating and eating.
That's disgusting. She ate the toothpaste. My students squealed out loud when that happened.
I ate a lot of things that night.
Some berries. Doesn't want toilet water? Okay.
Then I heard chirping outside my window. It was a barn swallow going back to her nest. I reached out for her. And suddenly, I was a cat.
I remember, so I had students take turns playing the game, and when the student who was playing turned into a cat, he yelled. He thought it was so much fun.
I tried to be quiet, but the bird was really
Especially because it was
scared.
completely unexpected. Hey, Bear Jew, what's going on? Yes, I'm a cat now. Are you confused about something?
Mom and Dad didn't even look at me.
There's Mom and Dad. She ate a lot of things that were not people food. And now I want to eat this bird.
I jumped and I almost got her. I could tell she was getting really tired.
I always have my students look at these things on the table, but I never really figured out what to do with it.
Now I was up in the big tree. I promised Dad I wouldn't climb it anymore. All I cared about was eating that mama bird.
Eat that mama bird.
I gobbled her up. And suddenly, I was an owl. First, all I heard was the wind. Then I heard little teeth nibbling in the grass.
Right, and now I am an owl. Right, so when you play this game for the first time, this is not what you expect is going to happen going in.
Rabbits.
Yep, gotta keep eating.
His face looking up and seeing mine through my talons. I swallowed him up, and I didn't chew one bit.
Not one
then
bit.
I flew off to find something bigger. A mama rabbit.
Got it. My students actually really struggled grabbing the rabbits.
I started choking, but I couldn't stop eating. And suddenly, I was a shark.
And it was right about here that my class just broke into laughter. And they were just like, "Mister, what are you having us play?" But it's so weird. I love it so much.
I rolled off a cliff and into the ocean. Now, I was hungrier than ever.
And I believe there's a seal right ahead.
I wanted fat, juicy seals.
Oh.
I tore off her flipper, and it tasted really good.
This poor seal, though.
Grabbed on tight. But I was so hungry, I jumped out of the water. When I opened my eyes, everything had changed.
And now I'm some kind of weird sea creature.
Now I was a monster, and I smelled people everywhere.
So now the regular animal food is not enough to satisfy the appetite.
I was big, but I moved real quiet.
Yum.
I wanted to stop, but also I didn't.
Classic. Tasty.
Passenger, I was still hungry. And to cross the water, I smelled something new. Something I had to have, so I swam towards it.
Still the sea creature.
I slithered onto the sand, and the good smell went into an old pipe.
out of a toilet.
I got closer and closer.
And now we are back in her bedroom.
All my stomach started growling. And suddenly, I was me again. I held my breath for a long time, but I couldn't hear anything. I think it's waiting for me to fall asleep. But it's not going to wait much longer. It needs to feed, and we both know I will be delicious.
Weird, right?
I'm not sure if I believed all of that, but I'm sure Edie would have.
Right, so now as we learn about each of the family members, Edith will draw a picture of them into her journal. And so basically that's the crux of the game. As we go through and read each person's journal, we get like transported to a different vignette. And it's why I love teaching this game so much, because each vignette is completely unique. So while this one was a flashback hallucination type thing, the others will be completely different, right? So Molly died because, right, she was sent to bed without dinner. She started eating everything, including toothpaste and some berries that ended up being poisonous, and she was hallucinating. And it ended up killing her. And we'll often see that one of the themes of this game is don't neglect your kids, because it often ends up very poorly. Right?
This will be
isn't
obvious
dangerous
later,
at all.
but my mom never told me any of these stories. Edie would have, but Mom didn't like bringing up the past. Though, when we adopted a stray kitten, she was the one who named it Molly. I spent a lot of time in Great-Grandma Edie's room.
So now we are in Edie. Edie was the one with the wheelchair in the dining room.
Edie gave a big interview about a mole man living under the Finch house. My mom was furious.
Went a family day out at Druid World. Mole Man. Keep that in mind. Mole Man is important.
I hadn't thought of myself as Edith Jr. for a long, long time.
Edith Jr. Lake Trip, Sam Photos, Conspiracy Now, My Friend Bigfoot, Random Junk, Edith Interview. Lots of VHSs, Molly Concepts.
One summer, they evacuated the island, but Edie refused to go.
So
For
we're on an
weeks,
island.
She was a celebrity.
That's why we were on the boat in the beginning.
When Edie told people Sven was killed by a dragon, she could also have said he was building a dragon-shaped slide that collapsed. She
Right.
could have, but she didn't.
So you remember in the beginning outside the house, we left to that pond, like off to the side, and there was a dragon in it that they said killed Sven. And it was really just, he was building a slide. You can see him falling right there. He was a slide dragon, and he died while building it. Hey, Dragon Bard, thank you for following.
Her room was like a museum.
So now we're going to learn about Odin Finch, 1880 to 1937. And you'll see that, alright, it's another vignette, tells the story of Odin, but differently than the story of Molly.
For 500 years, the Finches have been famous throughout Norway for their fortune. And misfortune. Odin Finch buries the latest victims of the family curse, his wife Ingeborg and their newborn son, Johan.
So the family curse. All right, I was waiting to bring this up. Or I'll talk about it right after this section.
On January 7th, 1937, he set sail with his family and his house, hoping to leave the curse behind.
Right, so you see the house is on a boat, and we learned earlier that the house sank.
But 40-foot waves off the coast of Washington send the house and Odin to the bottom of the sea. Odin's daughter Edie, with husband Sven and baby Molly, step ashore on their new home, Orcas Island. Odin Finch is the first to be buried in the new family cemetery. His daughter Edie is already dreaming of a new Finch house.
I forget what these things are called, but the
Whatever's
pictures
wrong with this family,
that
it
flip
goes
through.
back a long ways.
Right, so the Finch, basically the point of the game is that the Finch family has a curse, right? And the curse ends up killing everyone in the family, each generation except one person, who then passes on to the next generation. So Odin left his original home because people kept dying, and then he tried to bring them here, and ended up dying on the way, but left his daughter and son-in-law behind. Alright. Mysteries of Death and Thereafter. Odin Finch. So it leads to a cool class conversation about death and superstition with my students.
Even in her 90s. Sometimes Edie seemed a lot younger than my mother.
You ever be in a bathroom with carpet? Because I have, and it's disgusting.
The only trace Grandpa Sam's first wife Kay left on the house was the pink bathroom.
It's a very ugly bathroom.
It was a pretty big trace.
Chair in the shower. There's a secret in this bathroom by Sven and Edie Finch. Edie Finch. That way.
There's a secret in this bathroom. It's in the last place you would look. It isn't in the cupboard. It's hidden in this book.
I love it. More secret passageways.
Sven gave Sam an old camera he'd refurbished. He never put it down.
So we got a little dark room. Looks like he hunted some deer. That looks like a gravestone. That looks like Barbara Finch. But we haven't even learned about Barbara yet. Or we learned part about Barbara. We didn't learn how she died. Calvin Finch. That's another gravestone. That's a selfie. You remember that swing that we saw in the beginning? Past the fence? Pro clues exhausted. I've never actually tried to read every single newspaper. Couple turns land into native haven. You see another swing painted. Milton, right? Milton is the one who went missing. So we have 2 beds in this one. Fort Calvin. Nice little vantage point. Enlist, join and fight. Someone likes the military. Samuel Finch, Orcas Island Regional High School.
I knew Grandpa Sam had a twin. And that he never talked about him.
So this was Sam's side, your grandfather. And this was Calvin, his twin brother, who clearly likes space.
I guess my grandpa didn't like history any more than my mom did.
Alright, and now we get to learn about Calvin, who died when he was 11.
How I Want to Remember My Brother by Sam Finch. The thing I remember is that when he made up his mind, that was it.
Got a broken leg.
My
I
brother
see
said
Walter
he'd die
signed
if
on
he
it.
ate another mushroom. And he did. At Barbara's funeral, we swore we'd never be afraid again. And he wasn't.
So this is after Barbara
I think
dies.
Calvin always wanted to fly.
Sam, Calvin, dinner's ready. Coming.
But that day, he finally made up his mind to do it.
I think you can already tell what's going to
I
happen.
told him going around was impossible. Maybe if I hadn't said that,
Calvin, I'm not gonna tell you again.
maybe if the wind hadn't picked up, then maybe he'd still be here. But I doubt it. I think he'd already made up his mind. That's what I want to remember about my brother. The day he made up his mind to fly. And he did.
Alright, so if you remember the swing out front. So again, one, don't build a swing next to a cliff.
Calvin's story felt strangely familiar. When I was younger, I remember trying to do the exact same thing.
Right, and two, it's the whole thing with neglecting kids, right? You can't watch them like hawk 24/7. You don't want to be a helicopter parent, but if they're going to be doing something potentially dangerous, you got to watch them.
After the funeral, Edie roped off Calvin's half of the room. Mom said Grandpa Sam enlisted at 18 and never set foot in the room again.
You have to wonder who made all this stuff.
The passages were a pretty tight fit. They'd obviously been built for smaller hands and bellies.
So that's the way back to the main room, but before that, we are going to go to Barbara's room. And yeah, the passageways are really creative in this game.
Growing up, I always thought of Barbara as a child star.
Alright, so her whole room is like a little homage to Hollywood. Even her name is the Hollywood sign.
I never thought about how hard it must have been for her afterwards.
Happy birthday, Barbara. So, like, how long has this cake been there? When did Barbara pass away? 1960, and it's currently 2010. So this cake has been there for 50 years. Wonder what it tastes like. And we got some fun 3D glasses. Little past 7:15. Strange labyrinth. How's your fun eating that up? Rats don't exist in this universe, Bearju. obviously. Penelope's. That looks like almost like a... I was gonna say frozen yogurt, but yeah, I guess a diner also makes sense. A good assignment for this would be to have kids decide what the family curse even is. Is it an actual curse, or is it the failure to let go of the past? So you're getting ahead of yourself, historian, because that's exactly what I have them do at a later point in the game. So let's learn about... I love this one about Barbara. So the vignettes that we've had so far, we had the hallucination with Molly. We had the... I don't remember what it's called, the camera reel thing for Odin, and the flashback to Calvin. And now this one is going to be a comic book. My students know I love comic books.
All the stories people wrote about Barbara's death, I'm surprised Edie saved this one.
Old Jack here with another ghastly tale inspired by America's most unfortunate family. I'm calling it The Surprise Ending of Barbara Finch.
I love the campy voice.
As a child star, Barbara was famous for her scream. Now at 16, she was all washed up.
All washed up.
But in a lucky break, she'd been asked to perform her signature scream at a local convention for monster movie fans. It was just the boost her career needed. Unfortunately, her scream hadn't aged well.
Getting better. I think you just need the right motivation.
Her biggest fan and current boyfriend, Rick, was about to demonstrate
My students did not like Rick.
Now that was a great scream.
It was Barbara's father, Sven. He'd slipped into a table saw and had to be rushed to the emergency room. So
remember, Sven is also the one who dies from the dragon.
Babysitting her youngest brother, Walter. Her convention comeback was cancelled.
Okay, I'm hearing frustration, but I'm not hearing terror. What if I tried...
A gang of hoodlums in Halloween masks have been terrorizing Orcas Island tonight. Police are urging residents to...
That came from the basement.
You're right! Also, I loved your delivery on that. Why is your basement door locked?
Because my dad likes making puzzles and secret passages. There's a key hidden in the music box. The secret is to keep winding and winding until finally the key pops out.
Remember, the basement was locked earlier in the game.
20 minutes later, Rick
this guy. No one likes Rick.
So Barbara went to look for him, right on cue. She reached for the music box.
Right, and now we actually get to interact with the comic book a little bit.
She wound the key. She listened for Rick, but the house was silent.
Right, so this is now me.
She found Rick's crutch and imagined the worst.
My students had a blast hitting stuff off the pool table. The music is just wonderful.
The gang's leader is the infamous Hookman Killer, Dr. Carl Hamill.
The Hookman Killer.
Ate his family 10 years ago tonight.
So that actually is real blood, because that's what cut Sven's hand.
Fridge rattled and grew still.
Rick?
I was just trying to scare you to help you find your scream.
Well, I'm not scared, Rick. I'm furious.
Then act furious. All I'm getting from you now is that you're hurt and confused and you're...
She threw him out.
Oh, yeah.
A little something to
No one likes
remember
being
him
scared.
by.
Barb, have you seen my other crutch?
And she was still holding it when she fell asleep watching the late picture show. Hours later...
Barbara! Walter, what's going on up there? Ah!
Uh-oh.
Hey, I'm coming up, but if this is a trick, you're dead, Walter.
That's my diner outfit. That's a cool chair. Where do you get one of those? It reminds me of like the Men in Black chair. That's freaky.
Walter, are you there? Walter vanished, but his bedside radio was still on.
Orcas Island police describe the man as 6 feet tall, with a steel hook for a hand. Residents are urged to lock all doors and windows and notify the police of any suspicious activity.
The Hook Man Killer.
Saw the Hook Man and was speechless. He was quite...
I love the ongoing joke of not being able to scream.
He couldn't get enough of Barbara.
Okay, Barbara, there's gotta be another way out of here.
There is, because I took the secret passage earlier in the game.
That night, she played her part beautifully.
Huh, now we're in Molly's room again.
Molly's door hadn't been opened in years. The hinges groaned. He wasn't moving, but she sensed the story might not be over yet.
Let's go check on him.
The Hookman had vanished. She listened for his breathing, but all she heard was...
Egg chair.
Someone at the door was dying to speak to young Barbara. At the door, she heard whispering. It was coming from inside the house.
Uh-oh.
Oh dear.
The monsters had come to surprise her. For Barbara, it was a dream come true. Then she saw what kind of monsters they were, and she realized what was about to happen. She was going to be famous. And with her final breath, Barbara Finch gave the performance of her life. I wasn't there.
So she finally screamed.
But I hear Barbara was magnificent. Poor girl. She had a taste for stardom. But unfortunately, so did her fans. Of course, the police blamed it all on poor Rick, who disappeared the same night. And little Walter? hiding under his bed the whole time.
That's gotta be
It took it all
traumatizing.
pretty hard, but that's another story. As for Barbara, tucked inside the music box is all they ever found of her. Her ear. Now that's what I call a real eerie tale.
And that's Barbara's story. The comic book.
Edie told me all Barbara wanted was to be remembered, as absurd as that comic was. Maybe what Edie saw was a happy ending.
So Barbara, and this one always confused me a little bit because, like, I don't think she was eaten by monsters, but there's a couple theories. She was either killed by the Hookman, she was either killed by Rick, who maybe was the Hookman, or her and Rick ran away together. And I kind of let my students decide for themselves which ending Barbara actually had. And I actually think this is a good place to stop. This is usually where I stop one of my lessons with my students. And then I think we can pick up with the next vignette next week. What do you all think? I love this game so much. I'm very happy that I'm playing through it again. And I do hope that I can teach with this game again sometime this year. My principal's telling us that we're hopefully back in the building by March, which means I would have the last couple months to do this whole unit again. Although I already have a whole unit planned for other games that I want to teach with, so I'll have to choose. Alyssa, this has been so enjoyable, such a great game. Thank you for this. Alyssa, it's nice to meet you. If you're interested, let me put a link. We have a Discord that all of us participate in, that it would be awesome to have you join. Unless you're already in the Discord, and that's how you came here, but I'll put the link anyway. For anyone in the stream who wants to join. And so yeah, we'll pick up from here, same time next week, Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time, because I am in New York. So, thanks again.